Let's talk about what might be coming to replace the aging fleet of B-2 Spirit stealth bombers. If you're new here, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on future updates. Northrop Grumman's B-2 Spirit is America's first operational stealth bomber. It made its first flight in July 1989 and entered service with the United States Air Force in 1997. The B-2 was designed to penetrate highly defended airspace and deliver both conventional and nuclear payloads with low observable technology that remains largely classified. Although more than 20 years old, the B-2 still represents the most advanced technology in long-range heavy payload stealth aircraft, and it is expected to remain in service well into the 2040s. In fact, the Air Force recently extended its service life to 40 years or beyond. However, the Air Force recognizes that it will eventually need a replacement for this aging fleet. But in an era of budget constraints, what does this mean? What can we expect from the next generation of stealth bombers? What will they look like, and how will they fly? Will they even be called B-3 Spirits? Stay tuned. In 2018. So where do we start? Let's begin with the basics. What exactly is a strategic bomber? Strategic bombers are large aircraft intended to deliver both conventional and nuclear payloads over long distances. The range varies by aircraft, but typically these planes can travel more than 500 miles without refueling. Payload capacity also varies and is one of the ways that strategic bombers are differentiated. For example, the B-2 Spirit has a payload capacity of up to 27,000 pounds, and the smaller B-1B Lancer carries a maximum of 34,500 pounds. The size and capabilities of the B-21 Raider are still classified, but it is thought to have a payload capacity of up to 40,000 pounds. These aircraft are typically not used for tactical missions, and instead are deployed to attack high-value targets deep within enemy territory. They are usually flown in pairs to increase the chances that at least one will get through enemy defenses, and are equipped with both conventional and nuclear weapons. Some examples of strategic bombers include the B-52 Stratofortress, the B-1B Lancer, the B-2 Spirit, the Tu-160, and the forthcoming B-21 Raider. You can find more details about them in my other videos. Now let's return to the B-2 replacement. On April 15, 2021, Northrop Grumman released this render showing a possible concept for the next American stealth bomber, which it calls the B-32. Interestingly, Northrop Grumman chose not to use the B-3 designation, opting instead to simply call it the B-32. As you'll see later, there may be a reason for this. So, what stands out in this photo? First, notice the unmanned flying wing design. This would mark a departure from the B-2 Spirit, which uses a blended wing body configuration. A flying wing design is an aircraft configuration where the wings are the primary lifting structure and are thick enough to support the weight of the aircraft. Flying wings are particularly suited for stealth applications due to their low radar cross-section, or RCS. The Northrop B-2 Spirit uses a blended wing body configuration. It's kind of a hybrid between a flying wing and a conventional aircraft design. The advantage of this approach is that it offers greater payload capacity while maintaining a low radar cross-section. Second, notice the lack of a cockpit. That's because the B-32 concept is entirely unmanned. There are numerous advantages to developing an unmanned bomber. Unmanned systems reduce the cost of operations and maintenance while increasing mission flexibility. Crewed aircraft require pilots to fly the platform, which limits the amount of time available for other tasks such as navigation, targeting, and communications. Pilots also limit the flexibility of the mission because they must fly back to base after a certain period of time to refuel and to rest. Unmanned bombers could theoretically stay airborne indefinitely if they were properly fueled and maintained. Third, notice the dual intakes. Dual jet engines offer inherent reliability. If one engine fails, the aircraft can continue to fly and deliver its payload. Also, having two engines allows for more thrust, meaning the aircraft could carry a larger payload or climb faster. Fourth, notice the placement of the air intakes. They are located at the top of the wing, leading to a reduction in the aircraft's S-frontal, RCS. The forward RCS is reduced because only the leading edge of the wings are exposed. Additionally, the air intakes are flush with the upper surface of the wings, further reducing the RCS. Fifth, notice the S-shaped duct. This S-shaped duct is an air intake design that helps to hide the aircraft's engines from radar. This is important because the engines are some of the most detectable features on an aircraft, especially on stealth aircraft. By hiding the engines, the overall radar signature of the aircraft is reduced. Sixth, notice the V-tail. V-tails are an interesting design choice. They offer good handling characteristics and allow for higher angles of attack compared to traditional tails. However, they tend to be more complex and expensive to manufacture. Nevertheless, the added stealth benefits may be worth the trade-off. Seventh, notice the small vertical tail surfaces. Smaller vertical tail surfaces result in less induced drag and thus higher speeds. Lowering the profile of the aircraft makes it harder to detect. Eighth, notice the lack of a fuselage. By removing the fuselage and replacing it with wings, the B-32 reduces its frontal radar signature. This is important because the fuselage is typically the largest and most detectable feature on an aircraft. Ninth, notice the use of composite materials. Composite materials are lighter and stronger than traditional aircraft materials, which results in a more efficient and stealthy aircraft. Finally, let's talk about the propulsion system. The B-32 concept uses a hybrid propulsion system that combines turbofan engines with electric motors. Turbofan engines are jet engines that use a fan to compress air. Electric motors are powered by electricity, which can be generated by a variety of means, including solar panels, nuclear power, and batteries. The B-32's hybrid propulsion system would allow it to fly farther and carry more payload than a conventional jet-powered aircraft. It would also be more efficient, which would reduce its operating costs. This brings us to the question of what this aircraft will be called. Should it be called the B-3 Spirit? The B-2 Spirit was the first operational stealth bomber, but it wasn't the first stealth aircraft. That honor goes to the SR-71 Blackbird, which flew in 1964. The SR-71 was developed by Lockheed Martin Skunk Works Division and was given the Have Blue or Blue paint job because it was intended to blend in with the sky. The Senior 71 could fly at a maximum speed of Mach 3.3, which is over 3 times the speed of sound. It had a maximum range of 2,220 miles and a service ceiling of 85,000 feet. When the B-2 Spirit was being developed, the U.S. Air Force wanted a new designation for the bomber. Originally, the Air Force wanted to call it the B-3 Spirit, but the B-3 designation was already in use by the XB-35, a prototype aircraft that had been developed by Northrop in the late 1940s. Eventually, the Air Force decided to give the B-2 its own designation, the B-2 Spirit. So if the Air Force wants to avoid confusion in the future, it probably won't use the B-3 designation. Ultimately, the B-32 concept is an impressive piece of engineering that could serve the United States well for decades to come. It leverages advancements in commercial technology to provide an affordable yet capable system. Whether or not it ever gets built remains to be seen. The United States is facing budget constraints, and the Air Force has other pressing priorities. Nonetheless, the B-32 concept is an exciting possibility for the future of aviation. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe so you don't miss out on future updates.